The rumble of Harley engines echoed through the small mountain town of Ridgewood like thunder rolling in from a storm that never quite left. Locals turned their heads as a line of black bikes pulled into the only diner that stayed open past midnight. Marley's Diner, a flickering neon sign hanging crooked above the door. The man leading the group was Jackson Cole, a tall, broad-shouldered biker with a scar down his cheek and eyes that looked like they'd seen more than any man should. People called him the boss, not because he ruled anyone with fear, but because he led with a kind of quiet authority that made others follow without question. Inside, the air smelled of coffee, fried eggs, and secrets. The diner had seen better days. Cracked leather booths, faded photos of Route 66 on the walls, and a jukebox that hadn't played in years. Behind the counter moved a young waitress named Lena Hart, 24, quiet, and always smiling, but only with her lips. Her eyes told another story, one she tried hard to hide. That night, as the bikers filled the diner with laughter and the scrape of boots on tile, Jackson noticed her for the first time, really noticed her. The way she winced when she reached for the coffee pot. The way her sleeves were always pulled down even though the heat was thick and heavy. And when she turned to grab a plate, he caught sight of the faint outline of a bruise running from her wrist up toward her elbow. His jaw tightened. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and standing up for others, hit that like button, subscribe, and share this story. You never know who might need to hear it today. As Lena served the table, her hand trembled slightly when she set down Jackson's plate. He didn't say a word at first, just looked at her with calm eyes. She smiled quickly, almost apologetically, and hurried back behind the counter. The bikers joked and talked about the ride, but Jackson's mind stayed on that mark. The way she hit it, the way her shoulders folded inward like she was trying to disappear. He'd seen it before, in his past life, before the club, before he'd left behind everything he used to be. When the diner started to clear, Jackson stayed behind. The rain had started outside. Slow, steady, washing the dust off the highway. Lena was wiping down the counter when a deep voice said softly, "You okay, darling?" She froze for a moment, then nodded too quickly. "Yeah, just tired." He didn't push. He just nodded back, left a tip that could have paid for her groceries for a week, and walked out into the rain. But that night, he didn't ride far. He parked his bike across the street from the diner and sat there in silence, watching as the lights inside flickered off one by one. When she stepped outside, holding a thin umbrella and walking toward the alley behind the diner, he noticed a shadow following her. A man. He leaned against the wall, waiting. Jackson's instincts kicked in. He got off his bike and crossed the street. By the time he reached the alley, he heard the sound, not loud but sharp, a slap, her gasp, and then silence. When Jackson stepped into the alley, his presence filled it like thunder. The man, mid-30s, red-faced, drunk, froze when he saw him. "This ain't your business," the man snarled. Jackson didn't reply. He just looked at Lena, tears streaming down her face, her arm bleeding where the man's ring had cut her skin. The biker boss stepped forward until he was inches from the man. "Walk away," he said quietly. But there was something in his voice that made it sound more like a warning than advice. The man muttered something and stumbled off, disappearing into the rain. Jackson took off his leather jacket and draped it over Lena's shoulders. "You shouldn't have to take that from anyone," he said. She tried to thank him, but her voice broke. He didn't press her for answers. He just said, "You got someone to call?" She shook her head. "No one." That was how it started. A biker boss and a broken-hearted waitress. Two people from different worlds, bound by a silent understanding of pain. Over the next few days, the town began to whisper. The waitress from Marley's was spending time with the boss. People talked like they always do, with curiosity, judgment, and fear of what they don't understand. But Jackson didn't care. Every morning, he'd come to the diner, sit in the same booth by the window, and wait for her shift to start. He never asked about her bruises again, but he made sure she knew she wasn't invisible. One night, he found her sitting outside on the diner steps after closing. Her eyes were red from crying. She told him about her ex, Ryan, a local mechanic who'd once been charming, then controlling, then violent. She'd tried to leave, but he'd made sure she felt trapped, told her no one would believe her, that she'd never survive alone. Jackson listened quietly. Then he said something that would stay with her forever. Sometimes the only way to get free is to stop asking for permission. Those words hit her like sunlight breaking through clouds. Over the next few weeks, things started to change. Lena found the courage to move into a small apartment above the bakery downtown. The bikers helped her fix it up, patched the walls, replaced the locks, painted the windows white. For the first time, she slept without fear. The town noticed. People started to see a different side of the biker crew, the one that showed up early to shovel snow for old Mrs. Avery's porch, or to deliver groceries to families who couldn't afford them. And it all started because Jackson cared about one waitress nobody else looked twice at. But Ryan wasn't done. One night, he showed up at the diner, drunk and angry, demanding to see Lena. When Jackson stood between them, Ryan swung first. The fight was quick but brutal. Jackson took the hits meant for her, refusing to strike back until Ryan pulled a knife. That's when Jackson disarmed him, slammed the blade into the ground, and told him to get out of town. The sheriff, who'd seen it all, didn't arrest anyone. Instead, he just said quietly about times someone stopped him. The next morning, the story spread like wildfire. The biker boss who everyone feared had stood up for a waitress when no one else would. The same people who once whispered about him now nodded respectfully when he passed. The town began to change, a little softer, a little kinder. Lena started smiling again, not the kind of smile she used to fake for customers. This one reached her eyes. She began sketching designs for a little cafe she wanted to open one day. Jackson encouraged her, telling her she had the strength to make it happen. And when she hesitated, he simply said, "You already survived worse than this. Building something good, that's the easy part." Months passed, and the town's diner got busier than ever. The bikers became regulars, protective, loyal, and proud of the girl who once flinched at every loud sound. And on a bright spring morning, Lena unlocked the door to her very own place. Lena's Corner Cafe, with a little chalkboard sign out front that read, "Kindness served here." Jackson was there, of course, standing quietly in the back as she cut the ribbon. When she looked at him, her eyes filled with tears. Not of sadness this time, but gratitude. He nodded once, that same quiet way he did everything, and said, "Told you so." That night, after the grand opening, Lena found a small envelope on the counter. Inside was a single note in Jackson's rough handwriting. "You don't owe me anything. Just promise to help the next person who feels invisible." She smiled through her tears, knowing she would keep that promise. Weeks later, Jackson and his riders left town on another long road trip. People said he was headed south, toward the desert, but his legend stayed, not as a biker boss, but as the man who turned fear into kindness and gave a broken girl her life back. And every evening, as the sun set behind Ridgewood, Lena would look out the window of her cafe at the open road and whisper softly, "Thank you, Jackson. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe. Your support helps us spread more stories of kindness, courage, and second chances." Special request, comment below. Kindness can change a life. If you believe even small acts can heal someone's broken heart.